Okay, madam. Okay. Oh, welcome to the Talk About, the weekly program launched by our professor K. Hemchandra Garu, Chairman, AP State Council of Higher Education, to facilitate the students of the young generation who are deprived of going through the books because of their busy schedule in their academic as well as in the other activities. The book reading habit has to be cultivated among young generation to have the glimpses of the classical books of the yesteryear or even the present days, so that they can have an idea about the society and the culture in which they are growing and the way in which they have to develop themselves as the best citizens of the world. So this idea was created by Professor K. Hemchandra Reddy 1.5 years back. This is about 73rd episode of this, continuously moving on Friday between 3 to 4 p.m. every week, alternating with the English as well as the Telugu book. Today we have with us Mrs.J. Mohana Garu as a reviewer, who is going to review the Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. So this was one of the famous novel, or the lively component of the World War II. That's what they say. That is being reviewed by Mohan Valli Garu today. Regarding Mohan Valli Garu, introduction of Mohan Valli Garu, the reviewer of the today's program. She is working as lecturer in English in Government Degree College for Women in Madanapalli. She completed her MA English and B.Ed and pursuing her PhD from Mahila University. Being a teacher from 2000 to 2012, and then later on selected as a junior lecturer and degree college lecturer, and working as a lecturer in degree college from 2018 onwards. She has published and edited many books with ISBN numbers. Her research papers are The Importance of Fables, Short Stories, Poetry, Drama, and Novels in Promoting Human Values, Inspiration and Influence of the Indian Independence Movement on Telugu Poems and Songs, Indian English Emotions and Detachment. She got the Savitri Phule Award by Way Foundation in 2015 and a participation in MEK program telecasted by Ma TV in 2015. She is going to review the book written by Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl, today. So I leave it to Mohan Valli Garu.
Thank you for introducing me, sir. Good afternoon to all the viewers. Congratulations to APSHE for initiating such a wonderful program. And I admire the efforts of the whole team in sustaining the program since last year and their good work. I am grateful to Professor Hemchandra Reddy Garu for creating a platform for book lovers and literature, because literature adds to reality. It does not simply describe it. It enriches the necessary competencies that daily life requires and provides. And in this respect, it irrigates the deserts that our lives have already become. And I thank Dr. Bhaskar Garu for giving this opportunity. And you know that reading habit is one of the best characteristics of that a man can possess. Once the habit of reading books grows in one, it seldom dies out. I hope this Doctor Book program will create interest among the viewers to inculcate the habit of reading. And you know that our book is our friend, and by reading a good work, one cannot only earn knowledge but gain experience in life and realize the eternal truth. A good book can guide one in the right direction in his life journey. And this is today I am going to review the book The Diary of a Young Girl. I read it a long back, and I felt that this book is a bit useful to the younger generation. So I wish to review this book today. And before going to review, I share my screen just to just a second. Can you see the screen? Yeah. Today's my book is The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Literature grows out of life, reacts upon life, and is fed by life. We know about fiction, non-fiction, poetry, novel, short stories, drama, essay, and all. These are the different various forms of various genres of literature. But today, this book is not that kind of book, and this book is not intentionally authored for publication or any purpose. It is an intense story that endowes the deeper grief of its subject with a shining and even triumphant humanity. I told you, no, this is a diary written by a young girl. She was just 13 years old then. Her name was Anne Frank. It's not a mere journal. It's a document written during the Holocaust that riveted the attention of the Western reading public more than the diary kept by Anne Frank and published in the extract by her father, Otto Frank. With a good reason, the post-war generation wanted this noble, softer, innocent portrait to counter the horror, especially after the dispersal of newsreel footage of the concentration camps' liberation of history's most concentrated genocide. And here, the diary of Anne Frank is partially the account of 8 Jews who hid in Nazi-occupied Amsterdam for 2 years before they were caught. Mostly, though, it is the story of one of them, a young girl who refused to be robbed of adolescence. And this is the opinion of Bernard Clark of the New York Times about this diary. And so I have been talking diary. So what is diary? I am keeping in the graduate, our degree college students in mind. So in that way, I would see what is diary. What is a diary? Diary, a form of autobiographical writing, a regularly kept record of the diarist's activities and reflections, written primarily for the writer's use alone. The diary has a frankness that is unlike writing done for publication. Already I told you, this book is not written for publication or any purpose. The girl who hid in an annex, she wanted to share her experiences, her feelings to the in diary. She shared all his feelings in diary, and later they became the best document during the Second World War. And so before the review of the book, I would like to brief a few incidents or persons that are related to this diary, the diary of a young girl, for better understanding. So first one is World War. So the background of this book is World War. So what is World War or the Second World War? Was a global war that lasted from 1939 to 1945. That I think you might have studied in your social studies. And it involved the vast majority of the world's countries, including all the great powers, forming two opposing military alliances, the Allies and the Axis powers, in a total war directly involving more than 100 million personnel from more than 30 countries. The major participants, through their entire economic, industrial, and scientific capabilities behind the war effort, blurring the distinction between civilian and military resources. And you know one thing, even during the World War, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh were a part of the British Empire. And we too participated in the Second World War. And British India officially declared war on Nazi Germany in September. And we even almost 500,000 soldiers went to fight under British command against the Axis powers during that time. And next one, the next important person behind this book is Hitler. So Hitler was a great historical importance that you know, and a name that does not imply a positive judgment, because his actions changed the course of the world, and he was responsible for starting World War II, which resulted in the deaths of more than 50 million people. And in addition, Hitler was responsible for the Holocaust, the state-sponsored killing of 6 million Jews and millions of others. And Hitler's rise to power traces to 1919, when he joined the German Workers' Party, which became the Nazi Party later. And I have been talking of this is Adolf Hitler, and I have been talking about the Holocaust and Holocaust. So, what is this Holocaust? And you can see all the powers, and they wanted to show their power. So they used the scientific knowledge, like atomic bombs were first time used during the Second World War. And you may recall the incidents of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, right? And you can see the wounded warriors here. See, wars can never be glorious, whether you win or lose, right? So what are the fruits of war? We can say sinking corpses, wounded warriors, suffering, hungry, and disease. So all these are the radiation. See, this is not ever glorious. That we need to remember always. And this is the Holocaust of Jews. Because of this Holocaust of Jews only, now we are able to review the book, The Diary of a Young Girl, because of this action by Hitler, Jews like Engel, Anne Frank, along with her parents, she hid somewhere. So I just tell you what is Holocaust. Holocaust was the genocide of European Jews during World War II between 1941 and 1945. Nazi Germany and its collaborators systematically murdered some 6 million Jews across German occupied Europe, around 2/3 of Europe's Jewish population. The murders were carried out in programs and mass shootings by a policy of extermination through labor in concentration camps and in gas chambers and gas vans in German extermination camps. Nazi Germany used 6 extermination camps. They are also known as death camps or killing centers in Central Europe during the World War II to systematically murder over 2.7 million people, mostly Jews, in the Holocaust. See, you can't imagine the situation. It was systematically killing of Jews. That is Holocaust. Okay, and today Anne Frank's diary is one of the most important documents to have survived Hitler's madness. That's why this book has become very popular, and you can see the migration of Jews in this picture. Okay. So she was a 13-year-old girl in the Netherlands, and a diary was given to her on her birthday on 12th June 1942. 2 days later, she started writing in it. It would have been the typical diary of a typical teenage girl. Adolf Hitler was launched his aggressive campaign against the Jews of continental Europe. His armies, when entered the Netherlands, the little girl, also a Jew, went into hiding with her father Otto Frank, her mother Edith, sister Margaret, and another family of 3 in a sealed-off room concealed behind a wooden bookcase in the upper annex of the building her father worked in Amsterdam. She stayed there for 2 years until they would all be betrayed and then whisked away by soldiers of the occupying German forces to a concentration camp where she would ultimately die of typhus a mere 2 weeks before she would have been liberated by British troops. So she hid in annex for 2 years. Can you imagine how horrible it was? Because you can recall our lockdown period, right? Because when we were under lockdown during the COVID pandemic, we were unable to stay for a couple of days or weeks, but she stayed for 2 years. And this diary was published by her father, Otto Frank, after her death in 1947. The diary has since been published in more than 70 languages. It was translated and published more than 70 languages. Actually, it was written in Dutch language. First published under the title Het Acheris, in Dutch language. The diary was initially read by a relatively small audience, but now it was cited as the most purchased, read, and admired secular book in history. The diary has been sold to the public as the actual diary of a young Jewish girl who died in a Nazi concentration camp after 2 years of abuse and horror. According to the Anne Frank House, the red checked autograph book, which Anne used as her diary, was actually not a surprise, since she had chosen it the day before with her father when browsing a bookstore near her home. She entered a one sentence note on her birthday. In her own words, we can say that I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone. And I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. The main diary was written from 14 June 1942. See, she took solace from her diary. She wanted to share everything to the diary, and she took comfort and support, right? Well, and we can say it, the diary is a beautifully written memoir of a young girl caught in the middle of one of the most horrific periods of the history. Anne Frank became the victim of the Second World War, her words crowding every available inch of space in her diary, surviving to keep her story for the rest of the world through the ages. So it was published in 1947. Now we are in 2022. Still we are reviewing this book, and we are reading this book, and the most read and published book. That means you can estimate the quality of the book, or the what is a candid feelings of that in that book, right? And the manuscript, this is the manuscript. This is a page from her diary, manuscript of Anne Frank in her diary. This is, I think this is in Dutch language. See, the manuscript written on loose sheets of paper. So she wrote something in diary, and even she wrote on a paper, was found strewn on the floor of the hiding place by Mia and Beb after the family's arrest. But before their rooms were ransacked by a special department of the Amsterdam office, for which many Dutch collaborators worked, the papers were given to Otto Frank. After the war, when Anne's death was confirmed in July 1945 by sisters Janie and Leon, who were with Margot and Anne Bergen. See, she started her diary not with the intention of creating a record of her experiences as a Jew in hiding, but for her, it's a space to express herself in the most honest and candid terms. In her words, she says the reason for writing a diary on Saturday, June 20th, 1942. Writing in a diary is a really strange experience for someone like me. Not only because I have never written anything before, but also because it seems to me that later or neither nor anyone else will be interested in the musings of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I feel like writing, and I have an even a greater need to get all kinds of things off chest. And she says, paper has more patience than people. Though she is surrounded by her family members, friends, she was more comfortable with the paper. That's why she says paper has more patience than people. And I thought of this saying on one of those days when I was feeling a little depressed and was sitting at home with my chin in my hands, bored and listless, wondering whether to stay in or go out. Finally stayed where I was brooding. Yes, paper does have more patience. And since I am not planning to let anyone else read this stiff-packed notebook, or grandly referred to say as diary. Unless I should ever find a real friend, it probably won't make a big difference. Though she has friends and had good time with them, she could not share anything with friends except ordinary everyday things. She trusted the paper and started sharing her feelings on the paper, treating the paper as her friend, and wished to continue writing until she finds a true friend. To enhance the image of this long awaited friend in her imagination, she doesn't want to jot down the facts in the diary the way most people would do. But she wanted the diary to be her friend, and she started calling the diary by the name Kitty. She named her diary as a Kitty, and even in every page, you can see here, he addressed Kitty as Dear Kitty, Dearest Kitty, and started sharing her feelings. I just read one page from her diary. See, she wrote this on Wednesday, April 5th, 1944. My dearest Kitty, for a long time now, I didn't know why I was bothering to do any schoolwork. The end of the war still seemed to so far away, so unreal, like a fairy tale. If the war isn't over by September, I won't go back to school since I don't want to be 2 years behind. Peter filled my days. Nothing but Peter, dreams and thoughts until Saturday night. When I felt so utterly miserable, oh, it was awful. I held back my tears when I was with Peter, laughed appropriately with the Van Dance as we drank lemon punch and was cheerful and excited. But the minute I was alone, I knew I was going to cry my eyes out. I slid to the floor in my nightie and began by saying my prayers very fervently. Then I drew my knees to my chest, lay my head on my arms, and cried all huddled up on the bare floor. A loud sob brought me back down to earth, and I choked back my tears since I didn't want anyone next door to hear me. Like this, in each and every page, whatever the experience she had, whatever the feeling she had, my dear Kitty, my dearest Kitty, and she started. So, even similarly, she shared the experience of the Second World War and the madness of the Hitler in this book in a candid form. Okay, then and even she began addressing the diary as Kitty and dearest Kitty, that just now I told you, and she used initial in D, Q, J, R, E, S. Such initials have been assigned at random to those who prefer to remain anonymous in the 2015 edition. Okay, so the main review of the book is the diary Anne Frank kept from June 12th to 1942, August 1st, 1944 is a very intimate document through which the reader gains insight into the devastating circumstances that dictated Jewish life during the Holocaust. It equally discloses the fundamental role and potential of writing as a way of dealing with trauma. While the image of the bookshelf that disguised the entrance to the secret annex in which the Frank family languished for over 2 years remains an icon of evasion. It only provides a glimpse into the different factors that constituted the youthful Anne Frank's ordeal in hiding. During the course of the diary, Frank documents everyday life, which is shaped by the constant fear of being discovered, social displacement, isolation, dependence on helpers, and profound spatial incarceration. See, but though she was living in a terrible condition, she was very optimistic. See, she says, I can shake off everything as I write. My sorrows disappear. My courage is reborn. I have found that there is always some beauty left in nature, sunshine, freedom in yourself. These can all help you. No one has ever become poor by giving. I don't think of all the misery, but of the beauty that still remains. So this shows the optimistic view of Anne, right? While accounts by Holocaust survivors, such as some survivors were there, Victor, Primo, and Ellie, may contain a very graphic depictions of the unimaginable violence of life in the death camps. It is the you might have heard about health camps and other camps, high camp, health camp like that. But see here in those in during the Second World War, death death camps were there to kill the human beings. How horrible it was. It is a radical confinement in cramped conditions, isolation, and constant fear of Nazis that creates the dramatic situation Anne Frank and her family endured prior to the deportation and imprisonment in concentration camps. Although Frank is surrounded by her parents and her sister, she places more trust in her diary and thus gains a sense of belonging and companionship from it, rather than from the people who surround her. When Anne Frank wrote the sentence, I want the diary to be my friend, in her journal on 29th, 1942, it is one of several instances that attest to her desperate longing for companion during her incarceration and incredible loneliness. Since Frank's life is impacted significantly by the lack of trustworthy companion, I wish to argue that her intricate construction of an imagined equal through the diary from attests to a desperate need for a confidant under circumstances that threaten to deprive her of and um, and the mere right to be alive amidst dehumanizing spatial and emotional incarceration and painful extensive isolation. Frank develops incredibly intimate relationship with her diary, into which she channels her loneliness and despair to such an extent that for her, writing becomes almost synonymous with the survival itself. For her, maintaining the diary generates a sense of purpose, continuity, and autonomy that she lacks in her life. Moreover, it is an immediate means of expressing intense emotions and traumatic experiences, as well as ensuring her mental survival. In other words, Frank's reflective maintenance of her diary exceeds the term life writing and develops into a type of like a survival writing. It is for the reason that I wish to focus on the neglected narrative complexities of her diary that merge profoundly with episodary elements and eventually result in the textual fabrication of a vivid and engaged friendship between Frank and her imaginary addressee Kitty. In considering and emphasizing with Frank's profound lack of a friend and confidant who is her equal, I explore how the openness of the diary from itself allows the friendship between Anne Frank and Kitty to be born, how it enables the increasingly dialogical nature of Frank's writing that continues until the very last prior to Frank's arrest by Nazi officials. Reading the diary, I wish to show that in times of utter loneliness and despair, the need for human companionship becomes so central to mental survival that friendship may manifest itself in rather unusual ways, such as textual or imaginary constructions of imaginary others. With regard to Frank's traumatic situation, and see, she says, the best remedy for those who are afraid, lonely, or unhappy is to go outside, somewhere where they can be quite alone with the heavens, nature, and God. Because only then does one feel that all is as it should be and that God wishes to see people happy amidst the simple beauty of nature. as long as this exists, and it certainly always will. I know that then there will always be a comfort for every sorrow, whatever the circumstances may be. And I firmly believe that the nature brings solace in all troubles. Though she was living in such a horrific situation, she was quite happy because she was writing. She was getting solace from that diary. This is a memorial stone of Anne Frank. See, in exploring Frank's friendship with her diary, as well as the textual and emotional role of Kitty as the personification, that comprises the supportive and accepting qualities of a friend. It is equally relevant to consider the problematic post-textual classification of Frank's published diaries, since it urges the reader to become an active recipient of Frank's epistolary diary entries instead of remaining at a comfortable remove from the despair, attention, and voice in this document. Although Frank's diary has received external international attention, this attention has focused primarily on its relevance as a historical document. And role ironic that Frank's confinement feels liberating enough for Anne to lay out her deepest fears and joys in her diary. Though it was written as a personal document, now it became a historical document, right? And see, when we start reading this book, we can feel that the dead child is speaking to us. The dead child is speaking to us, and she says, no single document written during the Holocaust riveted the attention of the Western reading public more than the diary kept by Anne Frank. And of the concentration camps, liberation of history's most concentrated genocide. And in spite of everything, she was optimistic, and she wrote, Anna wrote near the end of their confinement on July 15th, 1944, it's a wonder. She notes, I haven't abandoned all my ideals. They seem so absurd and impractical. Yet I cling to them because I still believe, in spite of everything, that people are truly good at heart. See the attitude of the girl, because she was living in the most horrific periods of the history, and she says that concentration camps were there, killing centers were there, and there was a mass killing, genocide was there at that time. Still, she feels that people are truly good at heart. That is the nature of that little girl, Anne Frank, right? And see, a girl of positive attitude, I can say, in spite of everything, I still believe that people are good at heart, she says. Right. See, Anne's glorification continues at 263. Prince Grant in Amsterdam, the site of the secret annex where she and 7 others hid. Now it became a museum. It attracts over 500,000 visitors a year. The Anne Frank Center, USA, promises to educate the public, especially young people, about the causes, instruments, and dangers of discrimination and violence through the story of Anne Frank. Anne Frank Center, USA, gives out its Spirit of Anne Frank Awards each year, and with other groups, sponsors touring exhibitions that teach school children about the Jewish genocide through the more accessible video, photographic, and hands-on displays of life in the Anne Frank's annex. And movies were made, and even plays, documentaries, dramas were played basing on this story, right? I chose this book to make you to realize the importance of one thing, to make you to realize the importance of habit of writing diary. Of course, not to record the personal life, but to manifest the character by looking at the past. and to inculcate and to make yourself positive always. So whatever the situation it may be, so you have to be positive. When you read, I already told you the literature and life both are interrelated. So when you read such type of books, definitely you get some motivation from from these books, and you will lead your life in a better way and happy. I know this platform is to inculcate the habit of reading among younger generation, but I wish to provoke towards writing also. That's why I am going to mention the concept of morning pages. Recently I came to know about these morning pages. So what are these morning pages? Morning pages are 3 pages of longhand stream of consciousness writing, ideally done first thing in the morning. So if you want to improve your writing skill, so every day you just get up and write 3 pages. They are nothing but morning pages, whatever it may be, whatever you think. You want, if you want to, you say it. First thing you do every day morning. So you just sit and you observe something, you describe something, and whatever it may be, if you start writing 3 pages every day means definitely you can improve your writing habit as well. See, there is no wrong way to do morning pages. They are not high art. They aren't even writing. They are about anything and everything that crosses your mind, and they are for your eyes only. Morning pages provoke, clarify, comfort, console, prioritize, and synchronize the day at hand. Do not overthink morning pages. Just put 3 pages of anything on the page and then do 3 more pages tomorrow. So every day you just sit and write 3 pages. Next day, 3 pages. First day you may write in a simple language or simple sentence like birds are flying, the sky is blue, or whatever it may be. So gradually, when you keep on writing, definitely one day you will become a creative writer, right? And Francis Bacon says, reading make the full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. So here by writing here doesn't mean that creative writing or composition. He means making notes in writing of what we learn in our reading. It is not always wise to trust entirely to memory, especially when exact words and figures are important. So whenever you read anything, you just write it. You just write few points of it. I think you know very well about note making and note taking and so reading is most important to shape our lives. Literature is very important to shape our lives. You start reading books other than academic books. Nowadays, we are all busy with academic books. So that is not the thing. Take time to read books like The Diary of a Young Girl. Many good books were there, right? And see, today, this Anne's voice, she wrote, so it was a personal diary. But today, Anne's voice has reached out across continents and generations. Her diary has kept the victims of Holocaust from slipping into an otherwise inevitable anonymity. She has given others like her a face and a life. She has made it real for all those who lived through it and for those who came after her like us. It is said that the wound the psyche of a people suffers cannot be healed by its closing up. It is only in keeping the memory of the wound alive, in remembering and in sharing, that the people find their true catharsis. The diary of a young girl, in as many times as it is read and discussed, in as many times as it inspires dialogue and historical debates, will bring this catharsis closer. If you want to know more, or if you want to enjoy the candid life of Anne Frank, You must read this book, The Diary of a Young Girl. Thank you, sir. By this, I conclude review of my book, and thank you for giving this opportunity.
Okay, nice of you, madam. But
Thank you,
please
sir.
given some more glimpses of the book to the
Yeah.
student, because you have made the importance of the diary and the way in which she has made it a positively with all her sufferings and other things, she could make it. Okay, thank you for presenting a good book, because that's a diary which depicts the years of the Holocaust period. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, madam.
Okay, thank you, sir.